Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today, we're going to be discussing Donald Trump and his recent answers on a faith question. A very good question to have asked Donald Trump at a Hannity town hall. You don't really expect good questions from Hannity viewers, but we actually got one, and Trump gave an answer, and we're going to talk about this answer. And I also want to touch on the Nancy Mage comments that were made at a prayer breakfast. So I think we're going to touch on that first because that's a very short story. But Nancy Mage, South Carolina Congresswoman who lives like a pagan, votes like a pagan, and has a reveling in sin like a pagan. And we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to let you know Evangelical Dark Web is a Christian news gathering and commentary ministry. You can support us over at evangelicaldarkweb.org/join, and you get extra benefits, extra content, more articles than videos, but you can get more articles and videos also if you sign up for the free Evangelical Dark Web newsletter that gets you Christian news in your inbox each and every day, including and especially weekends. And the least you can do is like this video, subscribe to the channel, to the podcast if you are new. Best things you can do. Anyway, let's touch up on this video from Nancy Mage. It's posted on our Rumble channel, so we're going to watch it right here.
On this together, another year, another standing room only event. And when I woke up this morning at 7, I was getting picked up at 7:45. Patrick, my fiance, tried to pull me by my waist over this morning in bed, and I was like, no, baby, we don't got time for that this morning. I got to get to the prayer breakfast, and I got to be on time, and a little TMI, but he can wait. I'll see him later tonight. But I was here early.
So, yeah, that's the Congresswoman Nancy Mage out of South Carolina boasting about fornicating with her fiance. When eventually married, that'll actually be her third husband, which there's got to be some sort of trend. Maybe someone should do a study about congresswomen getting divorced. Although she might have been divorced before she became a congresswoman. She hasn't been in that long. But very odd trend. You see it with MTG, and you also see it with Lauren Boebert. Very odd trend that women who run for Congress getting divorced or not getting married at all in AOC's case. So very disturbing. Again, she is a very liberal Republican. She's invited to a prayer breakfast because this is the South Carolina prayer breakfast, and she's part of the South Carolina delegation to Congress. So this is just par for the course of being a congressperson in South Carolina, or a senator, or a governor. So, key figures were invited like Tim Scott, who's running for president, and Lindsey Graham, who many people suspect is a homosexual. So, with that said, many people suspect that about Tim Scott, too, because, very odd that South Carolina's two senators, both of them are unmarried. Very odd. What a coincidence. But anyway, that's a digression. And she said that at a prayer breakfast. I get that there's probably a lot of political people there. Maybe some Christians. There was a little bit of laughter. I don't want to embellish how much there was. But that was a disgusting thing to say at a prayer breakfast. She is reveling in her sin, in her fornication, in her cohabitation. And these things are despicable. And she should be church disciplined for it. And apparently she goes to a mega church in South Carolina, and the pastor doesn't seem to have a problem with this and her support of homosexuality and gay marriage. So she goes to a church. She supported gay marriage, but did not get kicked out of the church for having done so. She should have been kicked out of that church already, unless she repents, but clearly there's not a demonstrable pattern of repentance in her life. So let's move on to Donald Trump, because he is, frankly, more interesting. So Donald Trump, famously at the Family Leadership Summit, I believe it was in 2015, where he said that he's never really, prayed to God for forgiveness, never really had to ask God for forgiveness. And he made those comments. Trump basically declared that he is not a Christian. However, he did enter the White House and he did appeal to evangelicals. And what was the result of that? What was the result of people like Franklin Graham humping Trump's leg? What was the result of Donald Trump currying the favor of Paula White? And it turns out the result is exactly what you would expect. So let's roll tape on this town hall meeting, a Hannity town hall, which, again, might explain why this video is only just now kind of going viral in the last couple of days. So let's watch.
My question is, how has your faith grown since you decided in 2015 to run for president? And who has mentored you in your faith journey?
Great question. Such a great question. You know, I've seen so much heartache and turmoil. I was a developer and I did other things, and you know, I had a wonderful life before all this stuff. I didn't know what a grand jury was. I didn't know what a subpoena. What is a subpoena? I had a wonderful life. I'm so glad. They asked me the other day a little different question. Are you glad you did it? It was so, you had a great life. Are you glad you did it? I couldn't be more glad. I am so happy I did it because I've made America great. We can do it again. Right now we don't. We are not great. But I've gotten to know, because of this, evangelicals, I know so many people, and they feel so good about themselves and their family, and they base it on religion. I had never had that kind of an experience where I got to know so many. And Franklin Graham and Paula White. I know so many people that are so incredible, religious people. And not just Christians, not just evangelicals. You know, when I look at the Catholic faith, you take a look at what the FBI, but look at what the FBI is doing to Catholics. They made them like the enemy. They made them, it's horrible. How could a Catholic ever vote for a Democrat or a guy like Biden again after the experience that they're going through? But I've met some of the finest people that I wouldn't have had the privilege of meeting if I weren't president, and they're religious leaders, and they really are incredible people.
So, couple thoughts. Let's just kind of go in order. So, Trump, you know, he talks a lot. He thanks the person for asking a good question, and it was a good question. He talks about how he didn't know what a subpoena was, which is pretty ironic because Trump not knowing what a subpoena was ended up being a better president than several people who did. So I just think that's pretty ironic. It just shows you that the average American could probably do the job better, or at least at one point in time that was true. The average American could do the job better. I don't think it's really true anymore, but that certainly was true at one time. And then Donald Trump switches the question. So the question was, how has your faith grown or changed since 2015, 2016, since you became president? And then who are your mentors? So Donald Trump switches the first question to, someone asked me the other day, are you glad if you did it? And then he answers that question. So he doesn't answer the first question at all. That is a non-answer. And then in the second, part of the question, he goes into, his relationship with the evangelicals and the Catholics. In talking about the evangelicals, he brings up Franklin Graham, which, wow, if you're Franklin Graham, how much simping did you do for Trump? And he can't even pronounce your name right. And now it looks like Franklin Graham is supporting Mike Pence. So that's kind of the development on that front. But dude isn't even pronouncing your name right. You endorsed Paula White's book. Was he the one who took it back? I think he was the one who took back the endorsement. But he went out and endorsed Paula White's book. All this simping and grifting for Donald Trump, and he can't even get your name right. That's pathetic. That is sad. And then Paula White. He's still citing Paula White, who was a very discredited figure until Trump re-elevated her career. kind of like Mike Pence, actually. Like, Mike Pence was theoretically going to struggle for re-election in Indiana. Now, Indiana's become a very red state over the Trump years. But it did not look like Mike Pence had an easy cruise to re-election in Indiana. And he jumped on the Trump ticket, and that reinvigorated his career. So Trump has a knack for reinvigorating careers of, evangelicals that don't really have it. Although, is Paula White really an evangelical? She is a false teacher in Benny Hinn world, in beyond Joel Osteen world. So she's up there with Kenneth Copeland. She's in that world. But it just goes to show, I find this interesting again. And then the other thing I want to bring up, that audience was old. Very few people I saw in that audience that looked like they were under 50. I counted a handful, one handful, maybe 5. That was a very old audience. And not trying to disrespect elders or anything, but that is significant. That is a significant detail. We talk all the time about, hey, if churches don't have young people in it, they're dying. It shouldn't, you kind of wonder, is the same thing true for political movements? If you don't have young people there, and there were not a lot of young people there, like I maybe saw 5 people that looked like they were under 50 years old. If you don't have young people at your political event, and you're Donald Trump, I gotta wonder what's that say about his appeal. That's just a question. Let me know what you think about what I think. I'm eager, to have adult conversations about politics because I'm far more of a political junkie than I am a Theo bro, and I am a Theo bro. So let me know what you think about what I think. Those are just my thoughts on the Trump comments. Again, I've never professed that Trump was a Christian. Trump has never really seriously claimed to be a Christian himself, so we're not really holding him to standards that aren't merited, so we're not going to hold him to unbiblical standards here. But it does go to show that all this time he hasn't awoken to faith matter concerns. You can't say that about a Tucker Carlson, who Tucker Carlson's definitely gone on a turn to Jesus moment. You can see that in his life. And that's telling to me. I think that's very, very interesting that he has had the zeitgeist come down on him and he hasn't turned to God. He hasn't humbled himself before God. I think that is a significant development that we should talk about as Christians. And it's also significant that, all these dudes simp for Trump and he can't get their name right. So both things are worth mentioning, and the fact that he still touts Paula White. Again, he's not a Christian, so that's an unsurprising reality. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Have a blessed day. We'll catch you on the next one.